information media. How are we enabling it? Why are we doing it? Well, first of all, I think you'll all remember the MediaKind portfolio, the MediaKind universe. So the MediaKind universe is really, the key thing to remember here is that the MediaKind universe has the consumer at the centre. And that's where media really is. It's about focusing new media on the consumer and what the consumer needs and wants. Because the consumer needs and wants and what they're asking from media is maybe different. It's maybe tougher than it used to be, or they want more. Let's take a look at that. What does the consumer want? Well, broadcast quality is becoming important, yeah? We've seen OTT streaming services rise and grow, but for them to become mainstream, then we need to address what do we mean by broadcast quality. Not just on a traditional transport stream, but on our OTT services as well. And for that, you need to be working with people like MediaKind who understand media and who understand what broadcast means and how we translate that into streamed events. It also means more sports and live events. Sports and live events are growing. It's Olympics year coming up. The whole thing's going to be 4K, but we're going to see some 8K services added to that too, plus some niche editions of 360 and more angles. Yeah, we're going to see remote production coming in, so that there are going to be more angles available to the consumer for them to see at the Olympics. It's no longer just going to be 2 channels of live service as what we used to. We'll get multiple channels of multiple different angles. And it's not just the Olympics now, it's not just Olympics and football and soccer, it's about all of the other events that are coming through. We're seeing 360 and basketball. We're now seeing esports growing. You'll see esports here on the stand on Tuesday, and esports is becoming a growing market and has a growing visual audience as well. So media is growing, and there is an increase in the desire for media. Even though there are only a limited number of eyeballs, those eyeballs are basically saying we need more choice, we expect more choice. I expect to be able to watch what I want to watch from the angle that I'd like to see it at. So all of this means that there is a desire for more media and for media services to be launched more effectively at speed. So we're now in the place where we need to create media experiences at speed. What we've done here at the show is within a few days we've created an entire MediaKind media ecosystem, where we're basically from contribution, from camera, right the way through to the screen, able to create an entire media service here very fast within the space of a few minutes. And the way that we do that is by basically making sure that our architecture is cloud agnostic, that we can deploy very quickly, very readily on appliances, in the cloud, as a service, or as pure software. And for that, and to be able to do that efficiently and reuse all of our components, mean that we've put a lot of investment into creating an architecture, a microservices-based architecture, such that we can deploy and manage and create and nurture the right containers for those media consumers and for our customers to be able to deploy. I'm not going to go through this chart in a whole lot of detail, but what it really shows is that when you've created those microservices, the architecture and the way that you deploy them and the third-party components that you bring in are inherently or essential to make that architecture, to make your deployment successful and to work. And that means don't try and create it all yourself as a monolith. It basically means know what you're doing, know the components that you're focused on. You'll see the media applications here, which is where MediaKind really is focused on creating the best of breed. But around that, what we also have is the experience and the expertise to say, what are the third-party common services and what do they need to do? Do they need to help us with monitoring? Do they need to be doing the deployment? Do they need to be doing managing some of the APIs? And then we basically create the right applications, pulling it together with what we call MDT, where we have the right deployment toolkit to deploy the right scenarios and to deploy those containers and those packages at the right time. And that enables us to then deploy that architecture on OpenStack, VMware, on using any kind of common cloud or cloud agnostic deployment that we need to. And the way that you do that reliably is you create your blueprint. You basically say, if I'm doing a 360 service or if I'm doing over-the-top additional channels, so pop-up channels for OTT services, which we may well be doing for the Olympics, then you need to know that you've got the right deployment architecture put together, using the architecture that we saw. You create your deployment architecture such that you can readily deploy that and deploy it at scale. That's how you get to SaaS. That's how you really start to build your software as a service, is to be able to do this at scale. And that means having a deployment blueprint that you manage and maintain and can run continuously. So here at IBC, what we've done is we've taken that architecture, we've taken the user input, we've taken the architectures, we've built the blueprints, and you can see some new launches. First of all, you'll be able to see end-to-end media. We've got the race car here in the middle of the track. We can basically, that's where our content starts from. And then around that, we can use that for contribution, we can build a contribution pipe, we can build an end-to-end media flow, we can create direct-to-consumer services, and we can show you how we optimize low latency video for OTT such that it can start to become relevant in that broadcast market as well. And that's a solution here that we've got launched. We also have in the contribution and distribution zone our Cygnus contribution portfolio. From appliance through to cloud deployments, all based around software, we basically have a portfolio for contribution and distribution that we can deploy in all of those different use cases. And that's how we're managing to create more of those sports experiences and get ready for the Olympics. We're seeing a lot of business already starting to happen for us. Standardization is still really important. Yeah, we've all talked about all IP and the end-to-end flow. Well, SMPTE 2110, which is inherently built into our portfolio, is essential to be able to get that architecture working right from the camera, which is going to be IP out, through the contribution ecosystem and into the cloud. And then we have the media head-end. We talked about those deployment toolkits. Well, media head-end is one of those. We have a deployment where we can add OTT services, from encoding to packaging, through and out into the origin. That's a deployment toolkit for us. That's something that we're now offering as a SaaS, as our Akina streaming solution. So you can come along, you can look at how you can deploy your media head-end in the cloud and take it from MediaKind as a service by tying in the architecture that we talked about into that billing engine to manage the whole experience. Then we have updates to the rest of our portfolio. Advertising, linear rights, how we do monetization. Because as we're managing and creating that media flow, we need our customers to be able to monetize it so that they can get the best experience from the consumer and so that the consumer can generate the revenue streams that they need to create more media services. Storage and delivery needs to be continually optimized. With ABR Edge delivery, then that potentially means that you don't need to invest in an expensive CDN if you don't need to for those simple streaming use cases. Again, creating that service more quickly, more instantly for the consumer. Finally, the consumer experience. As we migrate to next generation platforms, we mustn't leave the experience behind. We've got to make sure we continually invest in new user experiences and making sure we support the right players and the right devices, and that we manage the user experience with our customers and for our consumers. Again, another as-a-service offer that we have through Media First that can be expanded into direct-to-consumer offers, or other as-a-service offers. Now we have multi-tenancy for multiple customers to be able to deploy on the same platform and leverage the same platform. Finally, the area I'm stood in right now, the media tech area, where you can basically talk to the expertise within MediaKind around where are we going with codecs, how are we leveraging machine learning, what are we doing around optimizing compression, storage efficiency. You can talk in even more detail about what does advanced cloud mean, how do we get to that architecture that we talked about earlier, and how are we actually doing the low latency ABR solution that we've got here on the stand? How does CMAF fit? What does it mean around buffer models? How are we actually implementing that? And finally, you can see some new applications, some new cool applications such as upscaling of video content from HD to UHD seamlessly. So that's an overview of what we've got here in the MediaKind stand, and basically how we've got there and how we're deploying it. events, you want people to look at.
Well, you would